Hi, folks. I'm delighted to be speaking to Rabbi Alex Chapper. First of all, old and much missed colleague from Northeast London, from the Essex side of things, amongst other places he's been. The senior rabbi of Bournemouth and Elstree United Synagogue. I'm very honored, actually, Rabbi Chapper, to have some of your time this morning because you are the rabbi of the largest congregation in the United Synagogue in the universe. I'm not sure, but a very large shul with 3,000 members, is it?
I don't count.
You don't count.
I think it's about 1,400 families.
So we're particularly grateful for your time. For those who don't know, you just tell us a bit about yourself.
So, as you said, my name is Alex Chapper. I'm currently the rabbi of Bournemouth and Elstree Shul. Previously, I was the rabbi of Ilford Federation Shul. So we were colleagues in Northeast London. I was there for 13 very happy years. Grew up in Northwest London. Never been to Essex before I moved there, but loved every minute we were there. Good to be back now in Northwest London.
And tell us a bit about your senior rabbi of a very large shul. I know you have a team, but still you will be dealing with a lot of people who come to you. It's also a community that has quite a sizable, committed religious population, which probably comes with its own very enjoyable challenges. I'm sure I hope you get asked more shilas probably than most of us. Tell us a bit about your day job and then I guess post-lockdown.
My day job and post-lockdown.
Well, pre and post, I guess.
So, like any communal rabbi, it's all the usual aspects of education, pastoral work, social work, programming, etc. And post-lockdown, it's been a very rapid turnaround in terms of ensuring that we stay connected with our membership and reach out, give us opportunity to actually reach membership who not necessarily mean in a non-virtual sense. The physical sense would have been necessarily be able to connect with us. We found tremendous opportunities in terms of educational programming and social programming that we've been able to utilize technology in order to reach a wider audience than before.
So I always joke with rabbis that I interview that people say, oh, you have a few months off because the shul's closed. And clearly that's not the case. I know myself. But you're particularly busy. I went to Bar Mitzvah last week and I noticed on your shul webpage, Kenara, you have probably several a week, it seems like. So you're definitely being kept on your toes.
Yes, I did a quick calculation. Since lockdown, I think we've had 14 bar and bat mitzvahs virtually. I think we were the pioneers. I think we did the first ever virtual bar mitzvah, which received some wider media attention. Mm-hmm. Even reached its way all the way to America onto the James Corden show. That's because of a certain reference to an American comedy show called Friends. So yeah, it's we tried to adapt very, very quickly. Obviously, as I said to each bar mitzvah, this is not the simcha you were planning and perhaps working towards, but we tried to make it as meaningful as possible, and I think we've achieved that. It's been been a special moment for each of those families to be able to do something to mark the bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. I said obviously it doesn't equate to the real thing, but we've done our best as I think we can do.
Can I just ask you about your shul building? Because obviously it's unfortunately closed at the moment. I think, is the nursery open at the moment?
The nursery reopened just
the nursery's open.
Yes.
But your main shul is closed. Now, I was there for a bris a couple of years ago. I was last there for a Shabbat, I think about 20 years ago. And even then, they were struggling to fit everyone in. And the community has grown since then. How on earth do you fit everybody in when you are in session? How do you manage that?
Yeah, exactly? I mean, kind of it's a good problem to have. We're very fortunate we have two sites.
Right.
So we have the Crockdale Road site and we have the site at Yavna College, which we use on a Shabbos morning, both sites. But you're right, there's hundreds of people on both sites on Shabbos. We're talking obviously all age groups as well. I think we have about 4 different children's services, youth service, we have a hashkama, we have a limud service, which is one which has a bit more learning involved in it, the main service. We have a Nitzan service, which is for young professionals, a Dor Chadash service, which is for younger professionals.
Do you go around and give the same sermon in all of them?
That would be telling. There have been weeks when I've been at different services and have utilized, as we all do, like they say, first or second day Rosh Hashanah in a different service. Yes, variations of the same theme, shall we say.
And harder to do it online because, of course, it's captured for posterity.
Well, yes, yeah. Online you can only use it once. Although sometimes in print media and then recorded live, same sort of ideas. Yes.
So how are you adapting to online life, and how's your community adapting? I mean, you have very solid daily minions. That must be particularly difficult for people that are used to and committed to davening with a minion every day and saying
Yes.
Kaddish and so on.
Yeah, that was one of the things we didn't rush into. I know that some communities straight away started having online services. We didn't rush into that, but then sort of organically people said, and I thought about it. And I asked one or two people. It was really the social element of it. Those people, as you say, who daven together on a daily basis, even more than on a weekly basis, but on a daily basis. That's routine of seeing each other, the social aspect of it, I felt very, very keenly we didn't want to lose. So I very quickly set up a WhatsApp group, so I could share the Devar Halakha that I used to do at the end of every service, and other little bits and pieces that people could share on there. And then we actually developed it into, now we have a morning service every morning on Zoom. And it's, the hardcore people who come on a regular basis still join us for that, which is great, and have an opportunity to schmooze at the beginning and then schmooze at the end. The best thing about it is I've been joking with my colleagues, which is this feature on Zoom, the mute all feature, is something that I'm really hoping to be able to maintain once we go back to physical services.
Yes, I've mentioned that a few times, and the response I usually get is, and the congregants want to be able to fast forward the sermons like you can with the YouTube ones, so it goes both ways.
Very good. Well, there was a meme going around a few weeks ago that someone said the upside of this lockdown is I haven't spoken in shul. They're talking about themselves. They haven't spoken in shul for 7 weeks. So a few people sent it to me, and I sent it back to them. I said, look, I'll do you a deal. When we go back, I won't give a drosha if you don't speak in shul. But if every person speaking shul, I'll add another minute to my drosha. So it's in their hands, really. But I think we have, I mean, on a serious basis, on a serious note, I think we have an opportunity when we do go back to almost reinvent or re-envisage what shul services can look like. I think, we're definitely, with this break, it's given us an opportunity to stop and think how we can improve things, how we can change a culture that's maybe been ingrained over many, many years. And, people pick up not necessarily the best of habits in terms of their behavior in shul, and that's also their engagement with shul services. And I think it's an opportunity for us to really think about that again, and how we can make the services more engaging, but how we can have some sort of almost like a two-way commitment, which is we will do our best to provide engaging services. At the same time, we are partnering together that we should try and make sure that the atmosphere is the best it can be for people to be fulfilled get fulfillment from those services.
Do you have, I mean, this is going to go out possibly a few days after recording, and government advice is changing every day, as is to an extent the advice that we get as communities. So have to be careful sort of to keep this topical. But obviously there is talk now of going back. There is talk, obviously, we're all of us will be planning Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, which for all of us, and I'm sure particularly for you, is huge logistics. Sure. So many unknowns. But are there any early sort of indications of, I mean, some communities people have reported that people are very anxious actually about going back. Other communities, people are just dying to go back. You talk with people talking, sure, well, if they're 2 meters apart, they'll have to shout to each other, which might not stop them. Right. But are there any, for your own community, and obviously you can't just go back to shul overnight, there's logistics, there's cleaning, there's all kinds of things, there's booking systems. Are people getting their head around it, or is it too early to say? And do you think
we've already done a lot of work in planning for a gradual reopening of the shul, depending on obviously when the government, I think there's an announcement made today, and things will start changing in terms of distancing, etc., and how many number of people are allowed in buildings. Once we're at a point where there is a minimum number that will work for us, obviously, which is 10, then we will be able to slowly start reopening the shul. We made a decision which we're not going to rush back into it, because I think there are two aspects to this. I think there are two camps of people. There are those who, well, as you say, will be fairly nervous about going back and maybe reticent to actually come back. And there'll be those who are so desperate to come back, they'll rush back. And I think the two will almost balance each other out. Mm-hmm. I'm not overly concerned that we'll be inundated by people. I think it'll be fairly calm in terms of we do it. However, we've done measuring in the shul, and we've worked out the number of people who can get in there, and it's not going to be huge numbers. It's going to be, for a weekday that's fine, but for Shabbos and a Yom Tov, it's going to be difficult. Even if looking at how we can have shorter services, more services, and using different parts of the site, moving other sites possibly. These are all options we're considering, and booking system, as you said as well, prioritizations, The people are saying Kaddish, people are celebrating Smachot. All these things are factors we're going to have to weigh up. It's going to be very complex, and there's a lot of work to go into it. I'm concerned we may not, for some people we will go too slow, other people will be going too fast. As I said, we'll never be able to please everybody. I think we need to manage expectations, which we're doing the best we can, and we have to do it responsibly. But so having said that, I think there'll be other opportunities for us as well. So, for example, obviously first day Rosh Hashanah is Shabbos, so there's no shofar, but second day there's shofar, and we have normally it's a very big gathering in the local park for Tashlich. Now there's an opportunity for us, if people haven't heard shofar, for shofar to be blown in the park. I've even have some conversations with some people that we may even have like a flash mob of a choir singing some of the traditional songs that people will miss. Those are the things that people really look out for. And at the moment we've been told that singing will be limited in shul, and people have to wear face masks. And therefore, I'm very concerned about the experience that people have when they come back. I think it's more important that we rush back in order to be able to daven together, that people have a positive experience when we do actually come back. And I think that's really where our energies should be directed to. Ensuring that people have a positive experience when they get back.
Speak for myself as well. It's definitely keeping us on our toes in terms of the fact, I guess we get a bit complacent about certain things. High Holiday is a good example. We basically know a certain number of people we expect to see in shul, and it's how we sort of, meet their needs of sermons and services. And suddenly we've got completely different questions and completely different challenges. It can be quite daunting. Do you think you'll stay online for the foreseeable future for those who can't make it, as well as perhaps for those who engage from home that wouldn't have previously come to shul? I'm sure you've found that. We've certainly found that. You get the odd person who, quite a lot of people are engaging, possibly precisely because it's anonymous and faceless and less intimidating.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we've been doing like other communities. We've been having a Kabbalat Shabbat. We've been having Havdalah. I talked about the weekday morning minyan. And on Mondays we do a mission and memorial for those who've got your site in the coming week. And on Thursday we do Cholim on Thursday we do a prayers for those who are unwell. We did a very successful Yizkor post Shavuot. And other communities also did pre and post Pesach as well. And as you said, those are opportunities for us to engage with people who might not necessarily come physically onto site. So yeah, we are planning that once we've reopened, because we won't be able to accommodate everybody, we'll still be looking at live streaming some of the weekday services in order that people can stay connected. And I think also some of the educational programming we've been doing as well. I think even once things go back to normal, I think our eyes have been open to the fact that this is a great resource for us to be able to spread our net wider than before.
Mm-hmm. A lot of meetings are easier as well when you don't need to get to a physical place, which can be a disadvantage because people are more ready to have them.
Right. Yes.
I
definitely feel that we're more using technology more during the week than we were previously, and that's why Shabbos is such a wonderful oasis, being able to completely switch off, particularly during the dark days of lockdown, when the numbers, everyone was watching the numbers on a daily basis, and all the news was very, very negative and depressing. I found Shabbos was really a machaya in terms of being able to just switch off and not think about that at all, and then obviously gain strength from that, and then come back for the next week.
And I imagine, like many of us, I mean, possibly, I'm sure you see the odd person over Shabbos if you're out and about, but obviously, probably like many of us, Shabbos has become your quietest day of the week, which for rabbis is almost unheard of. I mean, normally if you're a rabbi, you can't even go away for Shabbos. It's a whole big deal. Now probably, we could probably even do that, actually. No, there's nowhere to go. That's going to be quite a shift in a culture shift after 3 months of having Shabbos with our families. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. As I said, it's been a real, it's been wonderful not to have to work on Shabbos. Don't tell my community that. Without that pressure, for a rabbi, the pressure of having to make sure you're at shul, and then knowing you need to prepare maybe for a shir bit later on in the day, and all the things that go with that. That's not had that for the last few months, but I think we'll all be just as keen to get back to the normal routine as well.
Sure.
And we'll appreciate it in a new way.
Sure. Now you're the senior rabbi of the largest community in your area, which is a growing area, I believe. I know certainly when you're in Essex, you're very commonly minded, where that was organising educational programs in the local community centre, and just generally involved in the mikveh, because it was Federation of Mikveh, all kinds of things going on. Do you manage to get that kind of variety, or are you very much kept busy with your sort of main role, if you like? Do you get a chance to be a bit more sort of out there, if you like?
So I'm very fortunate with my colleagues we have a group on WhatsApp called Rabbis with Hearts,
Oh, I love
HERTS.
it.
So
Right.
we're very fortunate that we have, again, like we had in Essex, a very good working relationship with the other local Rabbonim, the other communities. And we do some joint programming. We did for Pesach, we did some joint programming. The Rebbetzins are also doing a joint program during the 3 weeks. So there's a number of things that we do. Tisha B'Av, ourselves and the Federation, Rabbi Garson and the Federation puts on a phenomenal program for Tisha B'Av, and we come together for those. So there are some more opportunities. In terms of the wider community, yeah, it's you have to prioritize when you're a community this size, and I have to say that's taken a little bit of a back seat. So not as I haven't been able to engage as fully with the local other aspects of the community. Yeah, we do what we can.
And a quick Google search reveals you're also the children's rabbi, I believe.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So that's something I set up a long time ago, quite a while ago, when I realized if you look online, there are a number of different Ask the Rabbi websites where you can type in a question and you'll get an answer, or there's a whole database of answers. I noticed there was a gap there, that there wasn't one that was actually focused on children, that would encourage children to ask questions and receive an answer. And I was, again, in my previous role, I was doing a lot of visiting different schools, both Jewish and non-Jewish schools. And I felt, I was very much inspired by, there's a story about Isidore Rabi, who was a Nobel Prize winning physicist. And he tells the story, he was asked once how he became a physicist. And he said it was by accident. His mother turned him into a physicist by accident. He said that normally when children come home from school, the parents ask them, "What did you learn in school today?" He said his mother used to say to him, "What did you ask any good questions in school today?" And I think, as we know from our tradition, that asking questions is a Jewish thing, isn't it?
I think Lord Sachs says that it gives more nachas to a parent when the teacher calls up and says, "Your son asked a great question in class today," than even giving an answer. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And all Jewish education is based on questions. Everything we know, all our tradition is full of questions. So I felt very much I wanted to encourage children to ask questions, and that's really the thinking behind the website. Yeah.
Is it still going?
I have less time now to dedicate to it, but I presume when I go around the local schools and the children's services in the community, that's very much what I do. I get them to ask me questions. In fact, we do a regular thing now called Stump the Rabbi. So I'll go into one of the services and they can ask any Jewish related question they want, and they'll win a prize if I can't answer it. Oh. It hasn't happened yet.
I was going to say, does anyone want a prize?
I have, and some of them you can see that obviously the parents have obviously primed the children to ask the rabbi this question and see if he can get me. Yeah, I think that's a really important aspect. I really enjoy that sort of thing.
You must have to remember a lot of different names. Are you good at that? Because you're obviously meeting lots of people. You're a large congregation.
Who are
I find as I get older, it's harder to remember names. I used to be great with that.
Right. Yeah. It's we all of us know how important it is to be able to remember someone's name, how people feel, how great people feel when you you're able to call them by their name. What I thought the biggest challenge is when you see people out of context. So when you see them in shul or you see them at something, that's fine. But when you bump into them outside the supermarket or in the street, and they smile at you because they recognize you, and particularly now, because your face is on the screen online, and you do that sort of thing. We go run through your head the Rolodex in your head, thinking I recognize the face, but it's just it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. You're building up slowly. I think the more people's names you remember.
Some of us, obviously, unfortunately, we all have bereavements in our congregations, and particularly at the moment, for some of us, it's been a double whammy. We've had, I must say, thankfully, my own congregation has been largely unscathed, though it's been very difficult for people not having the normal shiva and so on, but it's been a double whammy for some. They've had, obviously, great tragedies due to the COVID-19, and on top of that, the bereavement process has changed beyond recognition, and for all the benefits of a Zoom shiva, it's not the same. How are you finding that? Because that's obviously a large part of all of our pastoral work.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head. Yeah, I mean, I've said to every family, unfortunately, who's been in this situation, my heart goes out to them, because losing a relative is never easy. It's been totally compounded by the current situation. The fact that the normal person, it's very interesting. Actually, invariably, people who've been sitting shiva have said, not been able to sit shiva in the normal way, have said, we really miss that. Now we really realize the tremendous psychological benefit of sitting shiva. And it's ironic, really, that it's taken this people to realize that. But I think people have really understood that the fact that, it's not the same when you haven't got people around you to give you that comfort and the strength that people need at this particular time. It's been really, really difficult for people. But I think, we've tried to adapt and do as much as possible, as much as personal contact as possible. And even the Zoom shivers, although they're not ideal, there was, again, I've heard this quite a few times, people have said, you know what, sometimes when you've got hundreds of people in a room at the Lavoya, at the shiva, it can be very overwhelming for the Avelim, for the mourners. Whereas when it's on the shiva, again, you've got the feature where people can speak on an individual basis and the family aren't overwhelmed and they can have a proper conversation with each person. That has been a tremendous comfort to people. And we've also been able to, obviously, you can record. They've been able to have a recording of the shiva. So again, people don't always absorb what's being said to them at that moment. But to have that record of it and to be able to go back and over it again, that's something, again, quite unique. And it might be something we might retain.
I was going to ask,
being able to continue live streaming Lavoyas and shivers and things like that. That's something we, again, might look at.
I was going to ask you that with the bar mitzvahs. We didn't talk about bat mitzvah. I've always, in my own experience, when girls are coming up to bat mitzvah, tried to emphasize that actually Shabbos morning is just one facet of what you can do. And actually, if you do something on a Sunday or a weekday or Motzei Shabbos, you have a lot more potential for music and for recording and for video and all the rest of it. Whereas bar mitzvah boys are somewhat constrained by the expectation of the Shabbat morning service, which can be a disadvantage. That constraint has been removed, actually, obviously, with online bar mitzvahs. Obviously, it's disappointing for some kids to not have the party and so on. But on the other hand, as you say, it's recorded. I had a bar mitzvah where he was quite nervous. I think he enjoyed the fact that there was no one in the room with him. Are you getting positive feedback as well from these kind of things?
Yes, as you said, I think it's given us, being able to do it virtually like this has given us that flexibility. As you said, we've had bar mitzvahs who didn't really want to stand up in shul and do it in front of everybody. And it worked out perfectly for him. Others have been able to sort of theme it around them. We've also been a bit creative in terms of not expecting them to do all the laning and all the Haftorah. Some have done little bits of it. Others have been learning parts of the tefillot, things which are much more meaningful for them and things they'll be able to use later in life, where they may not necessarily get to lane or do the Haftorah or want to do that ever again. So I think we've almost made it more of a parity between the bar and bat mitzvahs, whereas the bat mitzvah has been very much tailored to the girl. She's learned something which is relevant to her. The boys also now have been able to do similar as well. And we've been creative. We've been doing them on Thursday evenings, on Sunday mornings. We did one for Havdalah earlier in the year. It was possible to do it at Havdalah. We've had one at Kabbalat Shabbat. And these are all opportunities where we can actually connect the celebrations with something which is making it really meaningful and personal to them.
So there's actually a thread running through all of these discussions, which is a kind of paradigm shift, whether it's daily prayer or even Shabbos and Yom Tov services. Bereavements, obviously weddings are not going on at the moment, but probably a similar discussion about potentially weddings with small numbers of people, bar and bat mitzvahs. A lot has changed, obviously. Do you think, sometimes people say to you, people have short memories. Do you think that, there's lots of other things we could talk about, the volunteering spirit and the community spirit and people doing more Judaism in the home, not just relying on the shul and so on and so forth. Do you think it will last or do you think it will wear off? Would you like to see it last? Is that part of your strategic planning?
Some aspects of it. I think, even within the current situation, if we think back to the beginning of things, we saw some of the worst of human nature. If you remember the panic buying and the things which were in short supply, people were very much selfishly thinking about themselves. Now, there are many reasons for that, and I'm sure there'll be many studies done and things written on that in the future. But then gradually we started to see some of the best of human nature. We saw the amount of care and concern and selflessness that people have. And that was within wider society and within the community as well. We've had people volunteering in numbers more than we've had before. We've had, people, what we did was we assigned all those over 70, all those in vulnerable category. Each one was assigned a volunteer. And we had people phoning on a weekly basis to check on them, see if they're in need. Shopping, obviously couldn't do visiting, but just to maintain contact. So we've had tremendous outpouring of care and concern for people and volunteerism, and that's an aspect I really hope will continue. But yeah, it's difficult to know. If you look back, people comparing this to the war, there was a tremendous spirit of British society after the war, during the war years, and then things do gradually go back to normal. So I think things will become normalized. I think we will maintain some of the better aspects of it, hopefully. only time will tell. We'll have to see. But I hope we can retain some of the positive things that that's come out of this.
And as you say, for us, certainly in our sort of relationship with Yiddishkeit and our how we approach simchas and tefillah and all these things, there are a lot of positives that we can take.
Yes, absolutely.
So with all this going on, like I said, you're obviously having a very busy few months, definitely not furloughed. What on earth do you do to relax? What do you do to switch off?
Well, it's a good question. I've been going on a lot more walks than I've been recently. Trying every day. I felt right from the beginning that although things weren't normal, I felt it was very important for my own mental health well-being to maintain a routine. And then to add into those things which I wasn't able to do previously, to add a bit more learning into my routine, to add more exercise into it. So trying to go on, I mean, we've been very fortunate. The weather's been fantastic. I think it would have been a whole different story if this happened in the winter months and it had been cold and wet and miserable. I think the fact that we've had this great weather, it's almost been, I know for some of my children who have been off school, that they're treated it like one very long summer holiday. And although there was work for them to be done, I had to sort of try and impress on them that this isn't the summer holiday. This is it's an unusual situation, but you need to still try and carry on. So I try very much to try and maintain my usual routine. I'm also a magistrate, so.
Is that happening online? Is that?
Well, it was for a while, and then it did go online a little bit over the phone, and now it's been slowly going back. So that's an outlet that gives you gives me a whole other insight into the world around us. I very much liken it to reading the local paper. You don't realise what's going on, outside our Dadamus, outside of
the 2 meters.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, it's probably about the same measurement as well.
I think so. So I've got to ask you, you're a magistrate. Ever had a congregant appear before you?
Thankfully not. I did have occasion once, and this was in Essex when I was sitting on the bench, and I saw someone come into court who I recognised from the community, and my heart sank. And then they sat obviously waiting for their case to be called on. Unfortunately, they were only there as a witness.
Right.
Yeah, no, never had that. But it does give you an insight. You really see another whole side of life there. We don't realise what's going on out there in the world.
Do you have to commit to a certain number of times a month?
Yeah, you have to do 26 half days a year. Right. It's not a huge commitment. I managed to do it a half day once a fortnight, so it's manageable.
Have they now managed to stop doing them on Yom Tov and things? Because at one stage they used to have their meetings. I think their annual meeting used to be Yom Kippur years ago or something like that.
Oh, I think it happened.
It's much more diverse now.
Never been an issue for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's quite a few Jewish people who sit on the benches.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for your time, because I know how much is going on. I really appreciate it. I'd love to hear some thoughts from you and some ideas and a lot of positivity. Any particular closing message to anyone listening?
So I mean, the thing that I sort of shared with my community, the sort of like ABCs of lockdown would be, we've seen that it's important to adapt. This situation has forced us into finding new ways to live our lives, to adapt and connect with people. The B, I think, would be the sense of belonging. That again, I think for a lot of people have realized that they need that sense of being part of something beyond themselves, particularly when you're confined, isolated physically. There's a need to be able to feel that you actually belong to something else, and I think being part of Jewish life really gives us that. And then C is connection. Again, we found that online and virtually we've been able to connect with each other, but again, to realize that as Jews we are perhaps we need that connection more than ever. I always say, you want proof that God's got a sense of humor. It's the fact that he expects Jews to actually form communities and come together and be able to and work together, because we're not hardwired for it. We're fractious and we're argumentative, and yet we're expected a number of things which we need each other for. And I think I hope that we've seen that that sense of being connected, not to disconnect ourselves. How important it is to be connected. I hope people will see, once we have the opportunity to do that, they'll grasp that opportunity and we'll reinvigorate the communities for the better.
Rabbi Chapper, thank you very much for your time. Wish you and your rabbits and the family well, and your community only simchas and continued success in all the challenges that will come up in the coming months. And thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.